Otherwise, I would have to do it again later, and that's a lot of work. Whew. What is a slope? Do you have a pencil? Yeah. Slope. The notes are a little weird. You could use this whole blank spot going down. Yeah. Slope is the ratio that describes the tilt of a line. Slope is a ratio that describes the tilt of a line. Most of the lines we've been graphing have some sort of tilt. Like, are they super steep? All of those ones that I say, I'm not going down that. Or are they pretty flat? Maybe I'll attempt that one. Most of them have some sort of tilt going on. That tilt is called the slope. Also, it says this word ratio. What's a ratio? It goes back to the first day of chapter 6. Ratio. I think those notes are blue. Allison, what'd you find?
A ratio that compares quantities in different units.
Oh, compares two things. Guess what a ratio in graphing compares? Two things called rise and run. You're going to want to write that down. In graphing, our slope compares two things, rise and run. You are going to hear a teacher talk about slope and rise and run for 8th grade and 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade. And if you go to any sort of college, you have to take a math class, that person's going to talk about it too. It's just a math thing. The next two sentences we're actually going to draw a picture for. When it says, if a line slants up from left to right, if a line slants up from left to right, are you drawing? If a line slants up from left to right, that has a positive slope. Up from left to right has a positive slope. If it slants down, it has a negative slope.
How can you tell that one's pointing down?
Oh, such a great question, Preston. You read lines like you read books. So you start on the left and go to the right. If it's going up left to right, that's positive. If it's going down left to right, that's negative. So you read it left to right like a book or a sentence. Specific questions about any of that? Okay, so our goal then is going to be to figure out this rise and this run by looking at a graph. So if you look at all of the rest of the page has graphs on it. We're trying to make answers that are ratios of rise and run. Rise and run, rise and run, rise and run, rise and run, rise and run.
So for the
Say it again.
you're just like repeating it fast. And so what you're saying I'm not saying now.
Verizon. Rise and run. So I'm basically looking for what number can go on the top of the ratio and what number can go on the bottom of the ratio. The top two help us out a little bit because this is our very first day of learning this. So first of all, by looking at this graph on the left, I know that this one is going to be positive because if I look left to right, I'm going uphill. And then you can kind of see that someone counted for us 2. How do you think they got a rise of 2? Bryn? Drake?
They went up to.
Oh yeah! They basically traced the boxes. Here's one box. Here's 2 boxes. So in my ratio, I'm going to put 2 on the top. Running is literally like it sounds, like I'm in Phi Ed running this way. Not backwards because I'm probably going to fall, trip, hurt myself. So always run forward like you're in Phi Ed. So how many boxes are we running here? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I know the bottom of my ratio in the run spot is a 4, which I could also call, Maddie?
Half.
Yeah! Just by looking at this one, I noticed something. Allison.
There's a -3.
Oh, that must mean I'm rising. This is so weird. Rising down?
How can you rise down?
That is the right question, Bryn. How can you rise down? Because that negative told me down. So rise is a silly word when you're talking about down, and that's why you put the negative. How many are we rising down from the top point to the next point? Maddie?
-3.
So this one's going to be a negative, sliding downhill. Running is always
Forward.
right, run right, run right. How many boxes right? 2. Now, this is in fraction form, but it's not actually a fraction. It's a ratio. Since it's a ratio, we can leave it improper just like it is. Bryn.
So basically, wherever the line or the dots are on the lines of the graph, you just like go from one point to another.
Yes. And it can help me find ones that are missing. Like, did you notice that there's only 2 and usually we do 3? Okay, so if I repeat the pattern, rise 2, run 4, rise 2, run 4, 1, 2, 3. Even though our friend Sally didn't put a dot there, we'd know that there would be a dot there. Or this one only has 2, so let's continue the pattern. Rise 3 means down. Run 2. Oh! she could have put a dot there. So it helps make our line super straight by following this pattern. Brittany.
And then could you also like at like the top, could you just do it backwards, like reverse?
Let's start with just forward for now. Eventually you can go backwards, but not on the first day. Preston,
No.
did I answer your question? Okay. Next one is not trickier, but they didn't count for us, so we have to count for ourselves. If you want to make the point, there's one right here. Do you want to make it darker? And there's one right here. Just by looking at this picture, I can decide if it's positive or negative. Who votes positive? Who votes negative? Look at this, we're already learning. Wow. I don't have to count anything to put a negative there. I am going to count now a rise down because we knew it was negative. So how many boxes down until I line up with the other point? 1, 2, 3. Did you count 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my rise is -3. Run right. Bryn.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. I think she's got it. If I wanted to find a third point, I could just continue the pattern. Down 3, run 4. Ellie.
I did it on the top instead of the bottom.
Over here?
Yeah.
No problem. You should get the same thing. Did you? Okay. So your run number's on the bottom, right? Awesome. Bryn.
So in this case, we wouldn't have to simplify anything.
This one doesn't simplify. If I maybe counted, I could still simplify to down 3, run 4. Like Maddie did that on our very first one. It won't change anything.
Okay.
What graph are we on? 4?
Yeah.
Huh. Where are the dots?
Make your own.
Make my own, like, how about right here? I feel like putting a dot right there.
Yeah, that you can't do it this time. I mean, so let's change it.
Right, so the halves are kind of tricky for us. So do we see a better spot we could put a dot?
Yes.
The 2.
2.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. That does look like a nice spot for a dot. Isabel?
4.
1.
4, 1?
Yeah.
That does look like a nice spot. Right on those corner, here's a fancy word for you, vertices. Anywhere else?
1 of 3.
I thought you were only supposed to do 2.
Oh wait, never mind.
3, 2 will work. 3 is good, 4 is even better.
Over 6.
Over 6,
Over 3. Over 3.
up 3.
Oh,
Wow, look at that. What am I supposed to be counting anyway?
Rise and run.
Rise and run.
Actually, down and right.
Down? How'd you know it was down?
It's -1.
Negative. Here's a kind of cool thing about slope. If Weston starts counting on this point down, and Zach starts counting on this point down, they should get the same thing. Because remember, our graphs don't have like wiggles in it. It should be straight the entire time. So they could start at different points and get the same answer. So Preston, how many did you go down?
1.
Mason, do you know how many we should run?
2.
Let's check. Weston was starting here, right? Down 1, run 2. Zach starting here. Down 1, run 2. Whoa! We're finding these dots so easy. What if Ellie starts here?
They'll be the same.
Down 1. Whoa! These points so easy. Bryn.
I did down 3 and then over 4. Like, I went down 3.
You can do down 3. That's going to be another cool thing. Down 3, 1, 2, 3.
Or not, yeah.
Run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa! This math is so cool. Feeling a little bit better? 2 left. I'm looking at this one and it looks like it's going up. Positive answer. Taylor and Addison and Allie and Godiva could all start on different dots and get the same rise. Did you get a rise of 2?
I got a lot. Oh, what about this one?
So let's say I start here. 1, 2 points up. 1, 2, 3 to the right. Rise 2, run 3. This is so cool. Rise 2, run 3. Rise 2, run 3. Rise 2, run 3. The same pattern the whole way. Guess if I wanted to find more points. Keep the pattern going. Rise 2, run 3. Rise 2, run 3. This is so cool. Doesn't it make you love math?
Sure.
Yeah, totally.
So I get to that homework.
Interesting.
Oh, I don't really see any points.
I do.
Oh, I see there. Oh, can I make them bigger? Sure I can. Drake, anything you know super fast?
Up 2.
Interesting that you say up.
It's negative.
Negative? So now the rise number gets silly because I'm actually going down, Bryn.
Down 2 over 3.
Down 2, run 3. Down 2, run 3. Down 2, run 3. Think we're getting the hang of it? Bryn?
What do you do if there's like a solution? Since like on homework has solution now?
That if they asked us for an X and a Y. Different question than what's the slope. The question would be like, oh, so 2 different types of questions. This one asks, what is the slope? This one asks, what is the solution? That's a good question. 2 different types of problems. Maddie.
What do we do for the bottom ones?
I know! So there's those graphs that we talked about last week that were special cases. Turns out they have special slopes. Of course they do, right? So I'm still going to count my rise and my run. This is so weird. How much are we rising?
0.
How much are we running?
4.
Yep, I think it is 4. Allie, will you type this in? 0 divided by 4. Oh! Remember what slope meant?
Angle or ratio.
Ratio that describes
Comparing to the tilt of the line.
the tilt. How much is this tilted?
0.
0. So most of the time you're going to give a fraction answer. Here's one of the times that you're not going to get a fraction answer. We said last week, sometimes I want something not tilted. Like this floor, I tripped enough the way it is. If it's tilted, I'm really going to be tripping. Or my kitchen table when I'm trying to eat cereal. Do I want that tilted?
No.
Nope, I want 0.
That'd be pretty funny though.
It would be funny.
Cause I could just see my cat jumping on the counter and then just like falling off.
I saw a Jell-O commercial about it once. They tried to get the Jell-O in the middle of the table.
Oh, they had everything velcro.
Mm-hmm. How much is the second one rising?
It's going
6, 5.
Rising 5? Running. Allie, will you type this? 5 divided by 0.
Wait, how did we get the 5?
Up 0. Up 5.
Are you? She thought she did it wrong. Look at this. She thought she did it wrong because this weird thing came up. Do you see that? She's like, that can't be right. Didn't even give her an answer. Do you see this thing? She thought she typed it in wrong, but she didn't. An error? What?
Oh my god, the answer's error. Word problem.
She thought she typed it in wrong. She didn't.
Whoa.
Error? Turns out
That's not.
most of the time 7th graders tell me they can't do something and they really can. This is really a time when you can't do it. In math, you can't divide by 0. 0. Take my 5 fingers and put them in 0 groups.
Then it's not 5.
You can't. You have to have at least one group. There's a really fancy math word for this called undefined. This is actually something that you can say, I can't do that. Because we're trying to find the tilt. This has no tilt. Error is what the calculator tells me, which is a fancy word for undefined. This is what I would write for the slope if I had a vertical line. What would I write if it was a horizontal line? 0. You don't really even have to count it. You can just say, I know how much it's tilted. 0. All of the other times you have a fraction, rise and run. Bryn.
For the next question, it just says y equals 2. Would that be a 2-part question?
Y equals 2? That's all it can equal? Yeah, that's what it says. Y has to be 2.
Don't you have to figure out
Oh, what would you want to pick?
0, 1, and 2. Then scrap it.
Yeah.
Well, this is a tiny graph.
So this part is not the stressful part because this is day 6 of XY chart. I get that the slope is a little stressful because it's day 1 of slope.
We need to answer if it's a 0 undefinable or something.
So Ellie's a little bit ahead of us and she's ready to write down slope equals
2 over 0.
Yes, technically.
Horizontal?
Yeah, what is it when it's horizontal?
0/2.
No tilt. 0 tilt. What about this one?
The X is always negative.
0, 1, 2.
Did you go backwards for? This was a special one too. 0 is the horizontal one.
Undefined.
Right, when Allie thought this can't be right, and it really was. The calculator says you can't do that. And in math, of course, they gave it a fancy name called undefined. So we have 3 types of answers. Undefined, 0, or the fraction one where you're counting the rise and the run. Do you think we got it? You do not need your own graph paper today. Yay!